With the NFL draft taking place in less than 2 weeks, we're going to talk about players the Buffalo Bills are heavily interested in. And in this video, we're going to cover the linebacker position. After not addressing it whatsoever in free agency, it's expected that the Buffalo Bills will make a selection at the linebacker position, whether that's early in the draft or later. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Breaking Tables. I'm your host, Alex, and today we've got a big show. And first, I want to start things off talking about the significance of a top 30 visit. Each NFL team gets to bring in 30 players for a visit pre-draft. And last year, the Buffalo Bills drafted a lot of players they brought in for top 30 visits. Maxwell Hairston in the first round, TJ Sanders in the second, then you have Deon Walker, Jackson Hawes, Dorian Strong, and lastly, Caden Prather. Obviously, he's not a Bill anymore, but still, from a numbers standpoint, 6 out of their 9 selections last year were top 30 visits. Looking at the Bills linebacker room right now, you have Terrell Bernard entering his 5th year, Dorian Williams entering his 4th year, and Joe Andreessen entering his 3rd year. For the notable names. Now, all these players can play strong side, weak side. Obviously, Andreessen isn't very experienced, but he's shown that he can be pretty flexible. Now, that's pretty important when you look at prospects because this allows the Buffalo Bills to look at strong side linebackers, weak side linebackers, not really forcing them to only look at one specific type of linebacker. And before we discuss the first player in this video, I wanted to address the talks of CJ Allen, the linebacker out of Georgia, being linked to the Bills. Now, this guy is a first-round prospect. Taking a linebacker in the first round is not what the Buffalo Bills typically do. The last time they did that was with Tremaine Edmunds, and he didn't end up getting re-signed by the Bills. So that's a pretty big indicator that maybe linebacker first round isn't the move. They also have a great track record taking linebackers in the later rounds. Terrell Bernard in the 3rd round, Dorian Williams in the 3rd round, and obviously Matt Milano being the biggest name of them all in the 5th round. Oh, and one more thing. The Buffalo Bills have never really had an interest in Georgia defensive players. They've had an elite defense these past couple of years, whether that's Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Trayvon Walker, former number 1 pick. And the Bills haven't selected a single Georgia defensive player, where they have been arguably the most popular college come draft time. Now, with all of that out the way, the first player in this video that we're going to talk about is Josiah Trotter, the linebacker out of Missouri. The Bills brought him in for a top 30 visit. He's the son of Jeremiah Trotter, Hall of Famer with the Philadelphia Eagles, and brothers with Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who was selected by the Eagles 2 years ago. He stands at 6'2", 237 pounds, and has 32-inch arms. Starting with his performance at the NFL Combine, Trotter didn't take part in any testing other than the bench press, which he finished first out of his entire class with 27 reps. Shifting to more important things, Trotter had a great 2025 campaign. He was named first team All-SEC and finished with 84 total tackles, 1 interception, and half a sack. Trotter enters this draft as a very intriguing prospect. He's a great run defender overall, a phenomenal wrap-up tackler, attacks downhill with speed and physicality, sheds blocks well, a good blitzer, and he's got good play recognition in the run game. But just like with every prospect, there are some things you can knock him for. He doesn't have that sideline-to-sideline speed and burst, and he isn't very good as a pass defender. Now, obviously that can change, but that's definitely going to need some improvement if he wants to be a full-time starter in the NFL. Something that's really promising about this prospect is that he turns 21 years old tomorrow. He's still a very young prospect, still very moldable, still a ball of clay, and he comes from NFL blood. So he's going to be very mature heading into an NFL organization. There's no worries about what he's like off the field in the locker room. No questions about his work ethic. At the next level, I think he translates best as a weak side linebacker, and I would project him to go early day 2. I would be very surprised if he slips past that early part of the 3rd round. Now we'll be shifting our focus to players that are projected to go day 3 with Kaleb Elarms-Orr, the linebacker out of TCU who came in on a top 30 visit with the Buffalo Bills. He stands at 6'2", 234 pounds with 31-inch arms. Yes, they're slightly shorter than desired for NFL teams, but they're not short enough to be super concerned. Completely opposite to the player we just talked about, Josiah Trotter, Kaleb Elarms-Orr tore it up at the Combine, had an amazing performance. He ran a 4.47 40-yard dash and logged in a 40-inch vertical, both being first in the entire class. That resulted in a 9.71 relative athletic score. And just like Trotter, Elarms-Orr had an amazing 2025 season. He logged in 130 total tackles with 4 sacks and 11 tackles for loss, and was named first team All Big 12. And here are some things that really stuck out to me when watching his tape at TCU. He's an exceptional athlete, a phenomenal tackler, attacks downhill with speed and physicality. He's a good blitzer. He's drastically progressed each year, and he sheds blocks pretty well. He might have some difficulty with that in the NFL given his 31-inch arms, but that's still something to take note of. Now, if he wants to be a starter anytime soon in the NFL, he'll have to improve on both pass defense and run defense. He lacks play recognition, especially when it comes to the consistency of it. He also doesn't really have his pursuit angles down. He'll definitely need to improve on that. And lastly, he has only one interception in over 1,800 snaps in college. Most people, including me, see Kaleb Elarms-Orr as a day 3 prospect. I see him going early day 3 with his exceptional combine performance, and I think he fits best as a weak side linebacker in the NFL. Now moving on to our next player, Jimmy Rolder, the linebacker out of Michigan. He also came in for a top 30 visit with the Bills. He stands at 6'2", weighing in at 238 pounds with 30-inch arms. Now those are much shorter. This is the area where you can start to get concerned about, but he is still a very intriguing prospect. At the combine, he logged in a 7-second 3-cone drill, tied for 3rd place in his class. And he had a pretty productive 2025 campaign himself, logging in 73 total tackles with 2 sacks and 1 interception. When watching his tape at Michigan, it was very hard to ignore his textbook tackling skills. He plays with good play recognition, a lot of physicality and strength, and he's got very active hands when shedding blocks. Now that's very important when you consider he has 30-inch arms, already putting him at a disadvantage. Just like with any late round prospect, they have a lot to work on. He lacks that sideline to sideline speed, and more importantly, he lacks coverage skills. He'll definitely need to improve that at the next level. But there's one more thing that might raise questions for NFL teams. Over his 4 years in college, he only has 11 starts. Now we don't know if that's relative to skill and athleticism or something off the field like work ethic. And that makes perfect sense why a team like Buffalo is bringing him in on a top 30 visit. They want to get to know the guy more and figure out if he's a good fit for the team. It seems to be a reoccurring trend that the Bills are looking at weak side linebackers or players that would fit better as weak side linebackers in the NFL. And when it comes to his projection of where he'd go in the NFL draft, it would be somewhere on day 3. I'm leaning more on the later side of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if a team takes a swing in round 5. And last but not least, a player that didn't come in for a top 30 visit, but is still heavily linked with the Bills. He met with the Bills before his pro day, and the Buffalo Bills attended his pro day. This is Xavian Sorey Jr. out of Arkansas. And just like the player we just talked about, Jimmy Rolder, Xavian Sorey Jr. finished with a 7-second 3-cone drill time, tying him for 3rd place in the class. He also ran a 4.63 40-yard dash. And he also had himself a pretty good 2025 season, logging in 81 total tackles, 2.5 sacks with 1 interception and 1 forced fumble. And to start things off with things that I like about this prospect, something that really stuck out to me that sets him apart from other linebackers in this class is that more than a third of his snaps came from lining up on the defensive line. He also plays with a high IQ, good play recognition, he's a good tackler, he attacks downhill with a lot of physicality and speed, and he's got good athleticism. In addition, he can also contribute on special teams. Another thing that can really set him apart from the other linebackers in the class. Now, say what you want about this, but he is really raw and moldable. This might be a bad thing or a good thing, but to me, with any prospect that is very raw and has the traits, that has to be a good thing. Now, for some things that he needs to work on, he needs to improve on both his run and pass defense. More specifically, he can get reckless at times, losing his footing and missing tackles. And going back to his versatility, playing over 1/3 of his snaps on the defensive line, with 31-inch arms, you won't really expect to see that out of him at the next level unless he can really put together a pass rushing package. In the NFL, you can expect to see a lot less versatility on the defense and just expect some contribution on special teams as well as at that traditional linebacker role. Now, given his versatility and his traits, but also how raw he is, he can develop into a strong side or weak side linebacker. It's really up to where he lands, what the team wants him to do. When it comes to his draft projection, it's going to be in that later section of day 3, round 6 or 7, or possibly going undrafted. And one last thing before I let you guys go, the Buffalo Bills took Landon Jackson in the 3rd round last year, a very traitsy edge rusher out of Arkansas. Arkansas love these traitsy guys, whether it's on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball, and the Bills were heavily linked to Landon Jackson heading into the draft. They didn't bring him in on a top 30 visit, but regardless, this kind of reminds me of how the Bills took Landon Jackson. Maybe they can go after another Arkansas Razorback, very traitsy, versatile defensive player in Xavian Sorey Jr. Now this brings me to the end of this video. Let me know which prospect sounds like the best move for Buffalo. Is it better to grab a guy in day 2 or grab a guy early day 3, late day 3? Let me know. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. Helps the algorithm. This is going to be a series where I'll be breaking down by position players that the Buffalo Bills are heavily linked to heading into the NFL draft. As we approach, I am more and more excited. I can't wait. I really just can't wait to see what the Buffalo Bills do to build onto their already exceptional offseason. Personally, out of the 4 prospects we talked about, my 2 favorite for the Buffalo Bills to target are Kaleb Elarms-Orr or Xavian Sorey Jr. Different kinds of players, but both can have their fits in Buffalo. I'll see you guys soon. Take care and go Bills.